It shapes our choices, our fears, our confidence, and even our relationships. But here's a strange question most people never stop to ask. Why does money have so much psychological power over the human mind? 2,000 years ago, long before credit cards, stock markets, or social media, Jesus Christ spoke about money more than most people realize. Not as an economist, not as a banker, but as someone deeply aware of human psychology. This video is not about religion. It's not about belief. And it's definitely not about what you should do. This is about understanding why money affects us the way it does, and why Jesus seemed to understand that psychology long before modern science named it. If you've ever wondered why money never feels like enough, why it creates anxiety instead of peace, or why it quietly controls people who think they control it, stay till the end. Money doesn't change people. It reveals them. Psychologists often describe money as an amplifier. It magnifies what already exists inside a person. Fear becomes more fear. Insecurity becomes obsession. Power becomes control. Jesus often spoke about money not as an object, but as a reflection of the heart. That's deeply psychological, because the human mind doesn't see money as paper or numbers. It sees money as safety, control, worth, identity. Modern psychology confirms this. The brain links money with survival and status, activating emotional centers, not logical ones. That's why intelligent people make irrational money decisions, and why emotions override logic when money is involved. Jesus wasn't warning about money itself. He was pointing at what money awakens inside the human mind. From a psychological perspective, humans crave certainty. Money promises certainty, not actual certainty, but the feeling of it. Jesus frequently challenged this illusion, not by attacking wealth, but by exposing the false sense of security people attach to it. Psychology calls this symbolic safety. When the mind substitutes an object for emotional reassurance, the more uncertain the world feels, the more tightly people cling to money. Not because money solves everything, but because it calms fear temporarily. That's why people with more money still feel anxious. Financial success doesn't eliminate worry. Wealth often increases fear of loss. Jesus understood this paradox. The thing people run to for peace often becomes the source of their anxiety. One of the most quoted ideas attributed to Jesus is about serving two masters. From a psychology lens, this is about divided identity. The human mind struggles when two value systems compete: meaning versus accumulation, purpose versus comparison, inner worth versus external validation. Money becomes dangerous not because it exists, but because it demands loyalty. Psychologists call this value conflict, and it creates chronic stress, dissatisfaction, and emotional fatigue. Jesus wasn't describing a religious rule. He was describing a mental conflict the human brain cannot sustain peacefully. When money becomes the primary scorecard for success, everything else quietly takes second place. Relationships, integrity, inner peace, and the mind pays the price. Here's a psychological truth most people miss. Greed rarely feels like greed. It feels like just being responsible. Wanting security, not wanting to fall behind. Jesus spoke about greed subtly because greed hides behind rational language. Modern psychology agrees. The brain justifies desire by reframing it as necessity. That's why people who have enough still feel behind. Why comparison fuels endless dissatisfaction. Why abundance doesn't create contentment. Jesus recognized this pattern long before terms like hedonic adaptation existed. The more the mind adapts to having more, the less satisfied it becomes. Jesus often connected money to the heart, not emotionally, but psychologically. The heart in ancient language represented motivación, desire, attachment. Psychology would call this the core value center. Where attention goes, identity follows. What we emotionally invest in shapes who we become. Money captures attention easily. Numbers are measurable. Status is visible. Comparison is instant. Jesus wasn't criticizing wealth. He was highlighting what consistently captures human attention and how that attention slowly shapes character. Ever notice how financial loss feels personal? That's because money isn't stored only in bank accounts, it's stored in identity. Psychology shows that people often merge self-worth with financial status. So loss doesn't just feel economic, it feels existential. Jesus spoke into a world where this connection already existed. His words disrupted a dangerous equation. Money, worth. When that equation dominates the mind, peace becomes conditional. Today, behavioral psychology confirms many ideas Jesus highlighted. Money increases stress beyond basic needs. Purpose matters more than accumulation. Comparison erodes satisfaction. Attachment creates anxiety. What's fascinating is not that Jesus spoke about money, but how accurately those insights map onto modern psychological findings, not as rules, not as commands, but as observations about human nature. These ideas challenge modern culture because modern systems thrive on endless desire, constant dissatisfaction, identity through consumption. Jesus' words disrupt that mental loop, not by offering financial strategy, but by exposing psychological patterns people would rather not examine. That discomfort is a signal, not of threat, but of truth-touching identity. Money will always exist, but the question Jesus quietly raised was never about money. It was about what controls the inner life of a person, what shapes decisions when no one is watching, what defines success internally, not externally, what brings peace that numbers can't provide. These questions are psychological, timeless, and deeply human.